God Wants You to Be an Atheist by Milrown Shaw. Free audiobook read by M. Gilroy Sinclair. Available in 12 weekly chapters. The complete free audio text. Physical version available worldwide from Amazon. Why not have a copy of this available to hand to any religious callers who come to your door? Guaranteed to make them never come back again. Also, an ideal Christmas present for any religious relatives. Chapter 2. Why would God want you to give up on them? The rest of this work is written from the point of view of a believer. To make things accessible to all readers, I will assume that you are a Christian, but the arguments work just as well for all religions. I ask the question again, why would God want you to give up on them? On the face of it, faith in God seems to be all that they really want. That, and following some rules. There is the promise of some sort of afterlife, which you can only access through living your best life and basically being excellent to each other. To make things very clear, here we will call it heaven. There was once, and in many variations of the religion still is, the threat of some sort of eternal suffering that will happen after you die, a sort of existential revenge brought on by the universe. For the sake of a better term, we will call this aspect of an afterlife hell. Now, if we look at it logically, what we have here is a carrot and stick system. The carrot is a place where people get to live forever in a parallel dimension surrounded by their loved ones in a perpetual state of bliss or some other systems of enjoyment. And the stick is the possibility of eternal punishment illustrated by the likes of Dante, neither of which can be verified in any way at all. Not at all. Zero evidence. Zilch. Please let that roll around in your head for a moment. There is no heaven and no hell. John Lennon's song would have us imagine this situation, but it's best if we just accept this. It makes us wonder how information about heaven and hell came to humans in the first place, as there is no actual return from death for there to be anyone to tell us about it first hand. The fundamental issue with both concepts, heaven and hell, comes from the unshakable belief that humans must be more than any other animal inhabiting this world, more than simply a product of nature. Humans have language and complex societies, and have a consciousness, which some people call a soul, which helps us to think of ourselves as separate and above the world we inhabit. Basically, this is arrogance of the highest order. The vast majority of the population of the planet seems to think that there must be more to existence than simply being alive. Whole branches of thought and history have been devoted to this. I'm not here to argue that there is no such thing as the human soul, or that we are nothing more than animals who have evolved to a point where we have such an enormous sense of self-importance that we assume that we have a link with the universe on a spiritual level. This belief that humans are more than animals and that there should be something more to life has allowed us to be used and hijacked by people throughout history for their own nefarious ends. I need to be clear that this is not a conspiracy. This is not some tinfoil hat rant about how we are secretly controlled by an Illuminatis organization. What this is a simple confidence trick carried out by well-meaning individuals to help us cope with the harshness of reality. These concepts came from people trying to do their best, and it needs to be remembered that they were usually just as lost as the rest of us. However, the idea that things will be better at some point once you stop breathing, regardless of how bad your life is at that moment, is an ideal way of keeping a population under control. It helps keep people from doing evil things by planting the idea that there is a greater power who will judge them and make them suffer for all they have done wrong in their life. And the list of what is classified as wrong has been established by the same well-meaning people. It has been said that ethics is what you would do when there is no one around, and this idea that you are always being monitored and will be judged would give you an artificial system of ethics which would, eventually, become second nature and produce useful members of society. Some people call this instilling of a moral compass, growing up, while others would call it indoctrination. There is a small matter of how you feel on the inside. You are already a good person, or you try to be. Don't deny it. You really think you are a nice person. Is this because you fear hell, or because you seek a place in heaven? If you seek heaven, then this is a rather selfish reason on your part. You are only being good because there will be a reward and want to avoid something nasty. If you think about it, this works in the same way that a child would behave themselves in the run-up to Christmas, so that Santa would provide gifts under the tree. But in this case, the gift of an afterlife is never seen, and the lump of coal doesn't exist either. If we can see the truth of the matter, we can move on as a species. There is a time in your life when you stop believing there is a Santa and become part of the system that just continues the myth and provides a framework for this to continue. You will take the lie, a lovely lie, and then tell this to your children. The obvious parallel with religion is clear to see, but it is hard for some people to accept. Just like Santa, these ideas are planted when we are young and trusting, when we believe everything that we are told, and these become frameworks for behaviours. Is a child good, or good for the reward of gifts? Thoughts like this are between you and your conscience. Suffice to say that an unscrupulous society, or church/religion, could easily make use of the idea of an afterlife to keep a group of humans afraid and make sure that a population is kept in line. This would go a long way to making a population behave in ways that would serve their own needs. More of this later. An example of this would be a donation or tithe of 10% of your earnings going into the church funds, or something simpler like a list of commandments that become the basis of laws. I'm not saying that laws based on religions are universally bad. You would have to go a long way to find a level-headed person who is against "thou shalt not kill." But you just know that a rule that says honour your mother and father was added by a disgruntled parent, and you will be even more pushed to find a person who could name all 10 commandments. Which brings us neatly to the book of Genesis and the centre of the idea that dominates the rest of this book. Bear with me. Please don't stop bearing with me.